boy, do we got something crazy to start out this episode. This has been something that has happened a long time ago in 1996, and there hasn't been a closing in this at all. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about Tupac's murder. There hasn't been an official closing on this. There's been rumors of who did this, who did that, why it happened, so on and so forth. But it looks like the Las Vegas Police Department is closing in on this. And, man, this is exciting and crazy at the same time. But a lot of people kind of already knew who it was based off of all the reports. And that's the thing with this Tupac. You know, when you guys asked me to do the Tupac versus Biggie documentary, I realized there's only one approach to this. And the approach to doing that would be getting every single person's side of the story, because there's so much he said, she said, in anything relating to Tupac and anything relating to Biggie. Because it happened so long ago where there was less cameras, less witnesses, less everything. So now you just got people, and then a lot of these interviews that happen, mind you, they're happening 20 years later, 25 years later of when these incidents happened. So a lot of people, you know, they try to recall what happened in those times, but you got to think, man, I'm not even 30 years old. Let's just say, you know, I ended up becoming, you know, let's just say 60 years, when I become 60 years old, somebody tries to get me to recall something that I did when I was 30 years old. It's going to be very hard to remember that. I barely remember what the fuck I did yesterday, let alone try to remember something in pretty good detail 30 years ago. It's very hard to do that. So a lot of he said, she said in the Tupac and Biggie stories. But in this Tupac shooting, there was evidence, obviously. There was speculation. There was detectives going in on this, retired police officers breaking down what happened. You know, ambulances and fire departments that showed up at the time, remembering what happened, recalling, trying to think, oh, this happened. And ultimately, throughout the years, people have been saying that it was Orlando Anderson that killed Tupac. That's the general thesis. That's the general statement that everybody has said, that it was Orlando Anderson, because Orlando Anderson is the one that got jumped way back in 96 at Mike Tyson's fight, you know, during like the casino area, I think, in the lobby, something like that. But just recently, something happened that was surprising to a lot of people. You know, let's go over the article. Las Vegas police have executed a search warrant in connection to Tupac's death. Yes, a search warrant. We're talking, I don't know how many more years later. Let's say, so in 2006 it would be 10, 2016 it would be 20, 2026 it would be 30. So you're looking at 27 years later. Let's go over the article. Tupac's murder may be finally on its way to getting solved, as Las Vegas police have served a search warrant at a home in connection with the 1996 shooting. According to a local Fox 5 station in Las Vegas, the LVMPD made entry into an unspecified home on Tuesday, July 18th. No further details have been released as of press time. This is a developing story. Well, you know, of course, when this came out was on Tuesday. Well, today is Wednesday as of this recording. So they have released a little bit more information. And according to the 8 News Now, the search warrant home is that of Keffe D. Well, it's actually Keffe D's wife. And they're saying the cops are looking into Keffe D's wife's home. And according to 8 News Now, the search warrant executed on property in Henderson, Nevada on Monday, July 17th, involved Keefe D, the former gang member and uncle of Pac's alleged killer, Orlando Anderson. Police reportedly searched the home for personal notes, photos, and other documents related to the rapper's death, although it's unclear if they retrieved any items of interest. Residents at the address declined to comment. One person reportedly threatened a reporter and photographer that things would escalate if they did not leave. According to TMZ, the home that police searched belongs to a woman named Paula Clemens, who is the wife of Keefe D, which can be seen below. So there is SWAT that pulled up like big ass, tanks, trucks at night too, seemingly at night. So We don't know why, they're in there, but here's the thing, man. Police don't move unless they're sure that, hey, we got something here. This is it. And this is, the closing case to this. Now, this could be multiple things. This could be them going in, because mind you, the Las Vegas Police Department hasn't said a single word as of the recording of this podcast right now. I want to say that very clear, because tomorrow when this podcast comes out, there could be more information. But as of the recording right now, the Las Vegas Police, I keep wanting to say LAPD for some reason because I'm just used to saying Los Angeles, but Las Vegas Police Department haven't said a single word as to why they even went into that home. It could be related to something totally different that Keefe D has going on because he was involved in the streets. He's been tied to a lot of things. So it could not be anything related to Tupac, but they're everybody's pointing it towards Tupac because obviously that's the biggest thing, and that's what mostly people are going to know. So if you don't know who Keefe D is, he's been in the streets for a while. He's been involved in a lot of hip hop stories, and he revealed himself that he was in the car the night that Tupac got killed. He was in the car that was shooting at Tupac. Now, he's saying he was in the passenger seat, the front passenger seat of the car. Orlando Anderson was in the back, and then the other guy's name, which I forget. What's his name, man? Wish I remembered everybody's name. But the other guy that was there was another guy in the back seat, and obviously the driver. Keefe D, what people don't realize is he admitted to being in the car and admitted to being in a shooting of the car and admitted to having something to do with Pac's killing back in 2009 to detectives. But he did, they had an agreement that if he admitted to it, that he wouldn't get incriminated for it. So they couldn't really do anything with the information. They just wanted him to tell the story straight up of what happened, and they couldn't incriminate him for that. So that happened in 2009. A lot of people didn't know about it, though. It wasn't really like anything major or huge. But then Keefe D started in, you can say 2017, started doing interviews with like Vlad TV and all these other different media outlets, and slowly started kind of bragging that he had a role in Tupac's killing. Let's just say that. That, hey, a lot of people would say I'm just in the car, but I kind of, had a little bit more to do with it. You can tell in a lot of the interviews he's kind of revealing more and more information about things, and yeah, man, it's a dumb move to do because now look what's happening. The Las Vegas Police Department have probably been keeping an eye on Keefe D the whole time and watching every single interview he's been doing. He just had a recent interview with, I believe, The Art of Dialogue. Shout out to them. Recently, like a month ago. Even with Vlad TV, like probably 2 months ago, he had one with Vlad TV as well. And he's talking more and more about the Tupac shooting, which is the dumbest thing you can do. You're 60 years old. Man, you don't end up going to prison for something that happened that long ago. And especially being that old and going to prison. It's not worth it. I mean, your freedom's way better. He even wrote a book about it. So he's trying to like get clout and cash in on everything that happened a while ago. Because he's the only one out of the 4 people in that car that was shooting at Tupac that is still alive. Orlando Anderson got killed to a gang-related thing that had nothing to do with Tupac in 1998, I believe. Maybe 99. Yeah, 1998 he died. And then the other 2 guys as well passed away. So he's the only one that's alive besides Suge Knight. But Suge Knight was in the actual car that was getting shot at. He's the only one that's alive that could actually, be like, hey, this is what happened in the story. So there is a Death Row Chronicles BET documentary where they ask him, hey, like who's the one that shot him? In the back seat, because Keefe D has always revealed that it was somebody in the back seat that shot, and it was Orlando Anderson and the other guy, I forget his name. He always said that it was somebody in the back seat that shot Tupac. So let me see. Let me actually see if I can play this a little bit without getting copyright. Yeah, so right here they ask him. I'm going to play a little bit of this so you guys can hear this. Very interesting.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre, Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
To keep it for the code of the streets. It just came from the backseat, bro.
So yeah, you got asked, is it Big Dre or Orlando Anderson who shot Tupac in the back? And he simply responded with a little smirk on his face, going to keep it for the code of the streets. it just came from the backseat, bro. So I don't know why, man. The way Keffe D answers a lot of these questions when you watch these interviews, it makes me feel like he's the one that actually shot Tupac. Because here's some new information that came out. I don't know if this is very new information, but I know I heard about it recently, so I don't know how new information it is. But one of the witnesses during the night of Tupac's murder said that the hand that came out and shot wasn't a slim hand, because Orlando Anderson was a very slim person. It was a lot, fat. It was a thicker hand that came out. Keefe D is a pretty thick guy. So his hand, I could totally see from the passenger seat him shooting, because he wasn't driving. So I don't know, man. I got this weird feeling that it was Keefe D that did it, and Orlando Anderson is kind of getting the blame for it because he died. So you can't really investigate somebody that's already dead. There's nothing they can prosecute on that. So Keefe D's kind of just like, yeah, he's like doing these interviews and kind of like slowly telling us that, like, hey, man, it's kind of me, but it's just, I'm going to point it to Orlando Anderson because I don't want no issues. That's the vibe that I'm getting. Now, I'm not saying he did it. I'm not, unless the Las Vegas Police Department confirm it, it's all allegedly at this point. So, yeah, it's a crazy, crazy story, man. It still baffles a lot of people. It's still interesting to a lot of people. The story is still interesting when it comes to Tupac and Biggie. There's so many different things that could have gone on at the time that would have made Tupac still be alive today, like had certain things happened. And there's so many different stories. That's what I'm saying. This is why the Tupac versus Biggie documentary, whenever I do start to do that, it's going to take me forever, because there's so many different stories that you got to tie and get every person's, point of view and, side of the story, because you don't know who's telling the truth and who's not. It's so mixed up at this point. There was a story that, when even Keefe D said this, that when they were shooting, Pac tried to get in the backseat of the car, and that's where a lot of the bullets hit him, and that's why he died, because had he just stayed low, that he probably would have still been alive. But even here's the thing. So even when Pac was in the hospital, basically on life support, they got rid of like a lung. He was missing like one whole lung. They got rid of like a finger. His head was swollen up. Like, they revealed so many details that like Pac was like barely surviving. That had he survived through this, he wouldn't have a lung. He wouldn't be able to rap anymore. He'd be missing a finger. And I think Pac's mom, took him off life support because she said that, this is what, a lot of people have said, that she said that Pac is a prideful person. He just wouldn't be able to live his life, the way he would want to have had he survived that. So, a lot of people say, had he survived that, he'd have been good and fine. Nah, man, a lot of people forget that when you get shot, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and you could never be the same as you once were. And that's the same thing with Nipsey Hussle. When he got shot, the first bullet hit his spine. So that means immediately, had he survived that, he would never be able to walk again. So that's a whole different Nipsey Hussle at that point. Not saying that he can't perform and be a rapper anymore, but, being in a wheelchair versus being able to walk. With technology the way it's going now, you're going to be able to walk. People that are handicapped are going to be able to walk again. So Nipsey would have been able to walk probably the next 10 years, but it would have been a totally different Nipsey Hussle had he survived that. So a lot of people forget that. When people get shot, it could go completely wrong. And Pac having one lung, a missing finger, who knows what else. I forget what else was mentioned there, but he apparently was going to lose his voice. So it would have been very, 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 very different type of Pac. So I'm going to keep my eye out on a lot of this. This is obviously huge news, and the Las Vegas Police Department is definitely gonna speak to this and say something, because this is like catching headlines everywhere right now. It's like one of the biggest stories that's out right now. So, hey, man, if they close this case, and finally, say, hey, Orlando Anderson or Keefe did it, and if they say Keefe did it, he's getting locked up for a long time. So, the Greg Kading, who's a retired Vegas PD, he he's the one that kind of broke down a lot of this Biggie and Pac thing. He said quite a few things. He said Kading said that Keefe first confessed way back in 2009 during a police interview conducted by Kading. He says they struck a deal with Keefe so they couldn't use the info he provided to prosecute him, but he says that deal went out the window the moment Keefe started telling his story in public. So that whole deal flew out the window. I don't think even Keefe knew that the second he started telling his story in public, that he's no longer protected from that. So Kading suspects Keefe still thinks he's safe from prosecution, but the fact cops now appear to be zeroing in on him, or at least his loved ones, will probably make him realize he's mistaken. As for why Vegas cops are jumping on this now, Kading tells us they might have been working on this in recent years and only now have all the pieces lined up to prosecute someone. You guys also have to remember, in order to prosecute someone, you need solid evidence. So they're probably just waiting for Keffe D to keep doing interviews, reveal more and more details, because each interviewer was asking slightly different questions, and it started to make Keffe D answer slightly different ways. I think Vlad mentioned that, like, Mike Tyson wants to go in the room and fight the person that shot and killed Tupac. And you can see kind of Keffe D, like, act like he's talking about him. He's like, I can box, I can fight too. So, that's kind of weird. If you kind of, say that, hey, it was Orlando Anderson or the other person in the backseat, then, you wouldn't kind of be defensive like that. And he is defensive towards, like, Orlando Anderson, as he should be. That's, that's his cousin. But he was like, he's a baby. He got jumped by all these people. He's just a baby. He shouldn't have gotten jumped. So this whole thing is crazy, man. I do think the Las Vegas police wouldn't be moving had they not connected the pieces. So we're going to start getting a lot of interesting information about this. So we'll keep our eye on this. Crazy, crazy, crazy.